From the moon to the heart. Hello and welcome to a Mid-Autumn Festival special on CGTN. I'm Tian Wei. The moon puts on an elegant show, different every time in shape, color, and nuance. She gives all of us a lifelong chance to look up to and to celebrate in her allure, our life, our curiosity, our thoughts through poetry, and certainly through our love. Throughout history, the Chinese have nurtured a special love for the moon. When the night sky is about to be lit with the soft hue of the full moon, it's a welcome sign of the Mid-Autumn Festival. The glow of lanterns, the savory and sweet mooncakes, and the moonlit night will mark celebrations for this second biggest Chinese holiday of the year after the Spring Festival. In that sense, quite similar to the importance of Thanksgiving in the West. The Mid-Autumn Festival is celebrated on the night when the moon is at its fullest and brightest, the 15th day of the 8th month in the lunar calendar. It falls on September the 10th this year. Today, I am bringing you a preview of this festival by celebrating it with my friends who you'll meet very soon. From the moon to the heart, you are watching a Mid-Autumn Festival special. Let me introduce now a friend of mine who is here with me, Matthew Hu, who is the founder of the Courtyard Institute. Matthew, good to see you.
Nice to meet you today.
It's wonderful to bring you all the way from the other parts of Beijing to this part of the world. See, I'm very sincere, Matthew. Just look at the food on the table. We got you fruits and the mooncake,
Yep.
and certainly the little rabbits that are symbols of the Mid-Autumn Festival.
They're obviously at the right place.
So before we devour or indulge into the mooncake, it's better that we explain them. I know you are a cultural expert. Usually I go to you for questions related to that. Tell us more about, why is the mooncake so special for the Chinese?
Well, I think that we have to understand that China is an agricultural country, agricultural civilization. By understanding that, we understand the significance of the Moon Festival. Unlike many other cultures, we Chinese perhaps rank agriculture as the #1 industry in our civilization. In Asian China, we say 士农工商. So we have 4 classes, social classes. And, agriculture is the second one, just the second to the literates. And in ancient times, when the farmers get a rest, they want to celebrate. And they celebrate with good food, of course. And as a Chinese saying always says, 民以食为天, Chinese people consider food as the heaven. So when we look up into the heaven, we see the beautiful moon here. So we use a round-shaped, very tasty food to symbolize the moon god.
Yes, indeed. They are in the shape of, like a moon in a way. And also even in the filling, right? The filling of the mooncake is very special. Usually people have the red bean paste. We have some over there. And also there's some special reformed version of the green tea, flavor inside as well. So that's special.
Yeah, perhaps the green tea version, we don't really have that in Asian time.
No.
Actually, yesterday over lunch, I was chatting this with a friend, a newly met friend, who is real expert on making mooncakes.
Oh.
And she told me how long she will prepare to make the mooncakes.
Tell us more about that.
At least 15 days to prepare the mooncake.
Almost half a month in advance.
Exactly. So you have to prepare really early enough to make the right mooncake.
So only the early birds could really make the right cake.
Exactly. And so all her mooncakes are for friends. So all her friends have to book really in advance. Otherwise, they don't have a chance.
Did you manage to get some?
Well, this year she didn't want to do it because it's very labor intensive. But the process of making the mooncakes, now she explained to me, I can see that, for Asian Chinese, I'm sure when they prepare the mooncake, it's like worshiping the God of heaven, really. They have a lot of devotion. They pay attention to all the details, from the flour they choose, from the kind of nuts they choose, how they bake it, how they pick out the bad ones, and what kind of sugar actually they pick. They don't want to make it too sweet, especially nowadays we have better healthy standards.
Right.
So we have different taste.
Right. The most typical filling is the duck egg yolk, isn't it?
Yes.
Because the yolk itself in the very middle of the filling within the cake, encaved in a way by the dough, almost look like a round moon. Exactly. The most golden and the roundest.
Yeah. Well, the cake itself looks like a moon, and like you say, the yolk also looks like a moon. So that makes it more double happiness, double fortune.
There's always a lot of symbols in Chinese food.
Yeah. I would also like to say that I think the northern mooncakes and the southern mooncakes and the Cantonese mooncakes are also very different, including the Sichuan mooncakes. Sometimes they would like to include meat in there, smoked meat, for example.
Those are my favorites, actually.
Okay. Well,
already mouth-watering right now.
Okay. I think mooncake is, this is the season for all the best mooncake makers to show off their skills.
They're really showing off their skills, and it also reflected in the kind of fillings they chose. We talk about the traditional ones, right? The duck egg yolk, and also the red bean paste, and as well as some of the lotus, sliced lotus within it. But now they have newer versions. Tea is one of those. Look at the green ones on our plate. That is the tea flavor. And also they have something like a durian, very special taste.
Really?
Yes, it tastes great, by the way. But of course, the whole family has to taste the same thing. Otherwise, there will be some struggle within the family, the taste itself. And also, they put prawn and even crab meat in the filling. So a lot of revolutions.
Very southern tradition.
Yes. And the pastries around the world, you only see this not only on the mainland, but also Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, as well as all over the world, where the Chinese are, and there are mooncakes.
Yeah. I think the Southeast Asians, they also developed their own taste. I was fortunate enough to travel to Southeast Asia once.
Yes.
And during the Moon Festival, I can't really describe them very well, but I would say they are very unique.
So not only Chinese, but also those in Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, they're also celebrating their different versions of the Mid-Autumn Festival. It's really amazing.
Yeah, from the food, we can see how the Chinese civilization in ancient times made an impact, not just in East Asia, but Southeast Asia, but now becoming tradition that welcomed by the not only Chinese, people around the world.
The mooncake, according to the history, I checked yesterday before meeting you. I know you're the expert, but they were actually made as early as 1500 years ago.
Yeah.
Only during the late dynasties, during China's feudal society, that people began to eat mooncake as a symbol of paying tribute to the moon during the Mid-Autumn Festival.
I think mooncake got the name Yuebing, really from the Song dynasty. Although in the Tang dynasty, people are really trying different kind of cakes or pastries, as you say. But I think becoming a tradition that we are still celebrating, this kind of tradition more or less being formed during the Song dynasty, when the Chinese culture really in the most glorious period of time.
Yes. At the celebration, a festival, it's not just about having good food, let's have fun. It's also about retrospect, isn't it?
Exactly.
In the agrarian society, as you mentioned,
Yes.
It's about people taking the time now, which they could hardly afford before the harvest, right? And now they could with the good food, with family reunion, and also just to look back as the earlier part of the year and think about the future. That's where the tradition is, and that's where the legends come from.
Yeah, I think that in the past, people really follow this kind of lunar calendar, which is more of a agricultural calendar to really return home in time to celebrate. And the moon in the sky by the time is really a clock. As it's getting rounder and rounder, it's like a clock ticking to remind you it's time for you to really get home.
I love that. I would observe the moon tonight to see how it works. But actually, it is really round, right behind us here in this special broadcast. So our time to go back home and have the family renewing with our friends. Having said that, though, there are a lot of legends about the moon. The Chang'e, the jade rabbit. The jade rabbit is sitting right here with us. There are a lot of stories about them. There's also a lot about how, people here on Earth, how they interact with their goddess on the moon. Maybe you can share with us some of those.
Well, I would like to start with the rabbit, since the rabbit is right
Yes.
here.
They are cutely sitting there.
Yeah, one of them is the jade rabbit. The other one is not so jade. So the jade rabbit, as you perhaps lots of people in Beijing will be very familiar with the rabbit god, which is Tu Ye, Beijing Hua. And Tu Ye is actually a symbol for curing all kinds of disease.
Yeah.
So I think with this COVID thing, I think we are really very much looking forward to have this rabbit god just at this
Rabbit god on her mission.
Exactly. Yeah. This is the time that the rabbit god come down and help us and give people comfort. And the thing that the rabbit god hold is actually a tool that he smashed, herb medicine. So that's something we believe that the rabbit god can be used. In the ancient times, even in the 1920s, 1930s, about 100 years ago, people will just, at this season, you will see all kinds of merchants just selling rabbit gods across the country, across the city.
When I was looking at the history book, especially related to the rabbit, there were a lot of stories about how the rabbit's story become one of the most popular, and what the rabbit's relations with the goddess of Chang'e on the moon, and how the goddess of Chang'e managed to land it on the moon, and what was her story with her loved ones. There are so many of them. Maybe you can share one or two versions of them with us. There are so many versions.
Yes. I think that's the same thing with all different kind of Asian legends, not just China. I think the version I think most people will be familiar with that Chang'e was wife of Hou Yi, who was a king of a major tribe, and he was given this kind of secret medicine, magical medicine, that will help him to become immortal. Because obviously we know that Hou Yi shoot down 9 suns in the sky to save people from a major drought.
Yeah.
So, but
And he managed to leave one still in the sky.
Yes. Thank God. So, and Chang'e was so greedy, so she took all the magic pills, but all by herself. Supposed to be divided by herself and Hou Yi, her husband. So, because she took basically she overdosed. So she became so light, she just can't help just flying into the sky. So eventually that brought her landing in the moon. So that's the legend that I'm familiar with most of, I think all the Chinese people and Chinese kids.
So it's really about Hou Yi reluctant to leave her beloved ones on the earth while he has the possibility to be immortal.
Yes.
But only when the accident came that she, the Chang'e, went to the moon.
Yeah.
And eventually they got separated from one another. That's why everybody is looking at the possibility of reunion with the loved ones, no matter what.
Yes, I think that's another layer of reunion that we need.
Someone made mistakes in the past can also, take this chance to make it up.
I hope that will be the case during this year's Mid-Autumn Festival as well. The dream about the moon, our aspirations for the moon is always so huge that you will find our trying out different ways to get to the moon.
Yeah.
Throughout the past few thousand years. Recently, of course, with technology, things are getting much better. But Mr. Hu, tell me more about how you see the latest, missions, men on the moon, also women on the moon,
of course.
hopefully in the future.
Yeah. So we have the complete sky up there, right? We have not only the men, but also women, half the sky. I think that as a Chinese, I'm extremely proud because this is obviously a major achievement. And at my age, I basically have witnessed China's development from pre the reform policy until today. So the advancement of our technology is a huge encouragement for all the Chinese people to develop our country to a much better future. So it's not just something that meaning a lot in science and technology, but also means a lot in the morale of the country, I think.
Yes. And the legends about the moon, about the Mid-Autumn Festival, even lives on the moon. Remember, the Chinese give the name, the laurel tree, to the moon base that China is trying to build on the moon. I was told it's going to be pyramid shape according to the scientists, but we'll see
I didn't know
how it works, right?
Yeah.
But just think about it, how much the legends are connected to science and technology, how our aspirations actually translated from legends into real technologies.
I think that with Liu Yang up there, we have a real Chang'e this year.
Having said that, though, it's not just about men and women being out there, could be on the moon. It is also bringing all of us what we have from the Earth to the moon. Well, the other way around. I understand that they are trying to cultivate crops in the microgravity environment on the space mission that China is taking right now. So in a way, if you want to develop or make mooncakes in the future on the moon, it might be possible, sir.
Wow, thank you. That way, the tradition is really developed to a very high level.
I hope your friend then will feel not reluctant to make any mooncakes anymore, even though it takes a lot of labor.
I'm sure she will be willing to do that in that kind of space.
Yes, but that is not just a China story. It's a human story, right?
It is, indeed.
I remember very clearly the first man onto the moon, the sentence he said.
Well, I think a small step for me is a major step for the entire human being.
Yes, indeed. And that is giving so many, not just from the country United States where the first mission was, but also so many around the world, an opportunity to see humans' capabilities. And now the Chinese also managed to do that and hope to mainly use that as an opportunity to contribute to the international community as well with the research.
Yeah. We want to take our share of responsibilities.
Yes, and bringing things from the moon.
Yeah.
I understand last time, during their mission, their research mission, they bring the latest sample of the dirt on the moon.
Yeah, how fascinating.
I mean,
that's very
everybody
amazing.
now is want to see what it looks like and how does it work, But this is an ongoing story.
Yeah.
Just like our love about poetry, which is another important keyword, I guess, for the Mid-Autumn Festival.
Yeah, I think the most famous poem, or most famous poem, is from Su Shi, a poet that we all love for centuries and millenniums. I think that what he has done in the past.
水调歌头.
Exactly. I think that's classic. And that's something that we can't really miss in this occasion. I think all the Chinese, perhaps around the world, would like to recite that poem at this occasion.
So what does that mean eventually, when we try to recite the poetry again?
I think that the poetry itself, do you want to start reciting
Yeah,
part
that would
of
be
it?
wonderful. Do you have something to share with us?
Well, I have English translation of the poem.
Okay,
Maybe
maybe one or two verses.
Yeah, I think that maybe this sentence right here. I only pray our life be long and our souls together heavenward fly. I think that's perhaps the most famous quote.
但愿人长久，千里共婵
千里共
娟. That
婵娟.
verse is so well
Exactly.
known from the poetry of Su Shi.
Exactly. I think that also really tells us the significance or the main purpose of Su Shi writing about this poem. He actually mentioned that before this poem. He says, 兼怀自由. So it's actually a poem he made for his brother, his beloved brother, Su Zhe, which is also a very famous Chinese literati, together with the father. The three Sus are most famous. And I think back then they were separated. They are not in the same place. And it's a year of dragon. It's being Chen Zhongqiu. So he looked at the moon, he thought about his brother, and he thought his brother would be able to see the same moon in the sky. So that's why he made such a beautiful poem.
Yeah.
And I think that's still a very classic for all families and friends who got separated, who can't be together during this year's Moon Festival, but they can perhaps remember, Su Shi and his poem by expressing their feelings about each other.
Right. It went like this.
Yeah.
The moon is bright or dim, and she may wax or wane. There has been nothing perfect in the world since the olden days. So let us wish that man will live long as he can, though miles apart. We all share the beauty the moon displays.
Well, that's very beautiful.
That's the last few verses of this poetry. So many recited every day, and so many, particularly during the Mid-Autumn Festival, would recite it again in their family, right?
I agree.
When we were putting our little table in the courtyard during the moonlit night and sharing it with our families, having a casual and a nice conversation, reciting these few verses while observing the beautiful moon is just something unforgettable.
Yes, that's very beautiful.
I'm sure you had that experience before.
Yes, we actually celebrated, the name of our institution is called the Courtyard Institute.
Yeah.
So it's based in a courtyard, not too far from the Jingshan Park. And it's a traditional one. So each moon festival we would hold some small-scale gatherings. So I think that each time we will look up in the sky looking for the round moon, and we are going to, have tea ceremonies, drinking some maybe yellow wine, which is traditional, and and commemorate all the beautiful small stories, and just send best wishes to our friends and families. So that's something we have been used to doing in the past few years.
We got the mooncake.
Yeah.
We told the stories of the legends related to the moon. We talked about humans' aspirations together, Matthew, onto the moon.
Yeah.
I guess now what I want to do is just to thank you for this opportunity to share with us all you know about the moon, the beauty of the moon, and wish you and your family the best Mid-Autumn Festival.
I have to say I know very little about the Moon Festival, I think, as compared to the vast knowledge of Chinese tradition. And the time is limited for this program, so we can share with the audience also very little. But I hope that everyone can really just take the moment and enjoy the beauty of the round moon, and just celebrate that with the beloved ones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
From moon gazing and mooncake to the offerings of sacrifice, there is a variety of customs and traditions on the Mid-Autumn Festival in different places across China. But the theme of Thanksgiving, in a way, and reunion is always the same. Now we look at these traditions, the food they have, and how different places mark this occasion. This is From the Moon to the Heart, a Mid-Autumn Festival special. The Chinese say, 每逢佳节必思亲. On festival occasions, more than ever, one thinks of the dear ones far away. People travel hundreds of thousands of miles just to be able to get back home and share the warmth with loved ones. For those who cannot, it is still a wonderful thing when the harvest moon rises in the early autumn night sky. All of us around the world look to the same moon, thinking of our loved ones. Sitting with me now to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival is another friend of mine, Zhong Houtao, a Chinese researcher who I talk to often recently when covering stories about the things happening across the Taiwan Strait. Houtao, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I would like to say happy Mid-Autumn Festival to you and your loved ones.
Happy Middle Festival. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I know you travel back and forth between the mainland and Taiwan very often, maybe already 10 or 12 times over the past few years. You know, we today talk about the Mid-Autumn Festival. Many here on the mainland miss our loved ones in Taiwan.
Exactly.
Tell us more about your story.
Okay. I have been studying Taiwan question for more than 10 years and have flown to Taiwan many times. And when in Taiwan, I was moved by many stories here. I would like to share a story with you. I have an old friend. I just call him Wang Minjiao, or in Chinese, a brother whose age is much older than I. And he is more than 80 years as for now. He told me that the funniest thing in his life is that he could not see his mom before his mom passed away, and that is really touched me. So at that time, when the door between the two sides opened, he began to travel back and forth between Chinese mainland and Taiwan just to help those who need help. And here, a very touching story is that he helped another old soldier, Mr. Huang. Mr. Huang traveled to Taiwan in 1949, and his wife in Chinese mainland, has been waiting for him for more than 30 years. And she has never married to another man. She believes that her husband will come back. And for these promises, she has been waiting for 30 years. At last, they are finally united. They enjoyed their family gathering. And that is really a very touching story.
Did you manage to meet Mr. Huang?
Yes, exactly, Mr. Huang. A very touching story in the cross-strait relations, I think.
You know, people talk about the Taiwan issue, the issues related to Taiwan and across the Taiwan Strait. You know, many of them only look at it from the politics perspective. But for the people who have been separated by the Taiwan Strait for decades, this is really about family reunion. It's about, I'm waiting for the love of my life. And it is about, I'm going back to see the love of my life and my family.
Exactly.
It is something very different from politics and from a news story.
Yes. Here I would like to show another story about 6 or 7 years ago when I was a visiting scholar in Johns Hopkins University. I met a very good friend, Mr. Li. He was a PhD candidate in Johns Hopkins University. At that time, he was very busy for his PhD dissertation. One day,
he was originally from Taiwan?
Yes, exactly. He originally from Taiwan, and he studied in United States. One day, almost at the same time as for now, he told me that he will go back to Taiwan. I was a little bit surprised. I asked him, why do you want to go back to Taiwan because you are so busy for your PhD dissertation? He just told me that I want to get together with my family. So from this, I could find that no matter whose where he is, no matter what time is it, he is Chinese, because Chinese culture is deeply rooted in his gene. As long as we are Chinese, we will go back to enjoy our family gathering in this special festival.
Over the decades, when you are researching about issues across the Taiwan Strait, I'm sure you have made many friends.
Yes, exactly. I have lots of friends in Taiwan, not only in blue camp, but also from green camp. Although they are taking different political stance, they are, I think, are Chinese. Whenever or wherever they are, they will try to enjoy mid-festival, family union, family gathering, try to enjoy this great festival with their families. I think this is our common ground for the interaction between the two sides.
Of course, lately there are a lot of issues across the Taiwan Strait, some intense situations as well. I really wonder whether you have been talking to them in the latest few months.
Just as you talked about that, the situation across the Taiwan Strait has been intensifying. There are many reasons. The first, I think, is that the Taiwan Authority or DPP Authority refuses to accept the 1992 consensus. As we know that the 1992 consensus is the basis for the political interaction between the two sides. Actually, not only political interaction, it is also the basis for the economic cooperation, cultural cooperation, and people-to-people exchanges. And without the 1992 consensus, maybe we could not enjoy this kind of cooperation anymore. For example, in Ma Ying-jeou administration, at that time we could arrange the chartered flight between the two sides in this festival or even in Spring Festival. But now, as there is no communication channel, this kind of chartered flight could not no longer exist anymore. I think that is really a great pity. And another reason is that the Taiwan Authority refuses to renounce the Taiwan independence ideology. What is more, they try to put into this kind of ideology into practice. For example, in education, in culture, in social life, in whatever they could do in Taiwan society. And this undoubtedly will irritate the Chinese mainland. Another important reason is that the Taiwan Authority try to rely the external forces to help the Taiwan Authority to seek the so-called Taiwan independence. For example, they are trying to upgrade the relationship with the United States, with Japan. And as we all know, Taiwan question is internal affairs for Chinese people. If the Taiwan Authority try to rely external forces, I think that will harm our feeling.
There are a lot of debates also within Taiwan as well, where situations are getting ever more intense. Actually, we've been looking at some numbers of the public opinion in Taiwan. Graphics from the Taiwan Global Views magazine shows 63.6% people from Taiwan concerned about the conflict with the mainland, 62.2 people in Taiwan supporting peaceful cross-strait relations. So you can see from this number that people actually are having different views compared to some of the media reports try to depict it.
Yes, exactly. I think the Taiwan people is becoming more and more realistic about the cross-strait relations. And I think they are realizing the importance of peace and stability. Just as a very famous saying in Chinese, 没有人战争期间没有人是赢家 No one is a winner if there is a war. And 在和平期间没有人是输家 No one is a loser if we could enjoy peace. So just as our President Xi once said, we should treasure peace and stability as much as we treasure our eyes. So from this point, the Taiwan people is also becoming much conscious about the importance of peace and stability. Especially, there is a huge contrast between Ma Ying-jeou administration and Tsai Ing-wen administration. In Ma Ying-jeou administration, that is from 2008 to 2016, and that time the Taiwan people could enjoy a lot, could enjoy the peace bonus. They could do business with the Chinese mainland people. They could fly to Chinese mainland people. They could earn a lot. But now, as DPP is taking power, they could not enjoy this kind of peace bonus. That is really aggravating. So from this, you could find that they are becoming much more conscious about the importance of peace and stability. And another important aspect is that they are becoming much realistic about the cross-strait relations. In the past, they may believe that the cross-strait relation is not so important, but as for now, they realize that the cross-strait relationship is not only cross-strait relationship itself, it's highly related to Taiwan internal affairs and external affairs.
But one of the things many from outside China, Greater China, are a little bit confused about, the different kinds of historic documents. There is 3 joint communiques between China and the United States, and one of it suggesting very clearly the priority for peace and stability for China is about the Taiwan question.
Yeah.
And both sides came to some kinds of consensus about how to understand the Taiwan question. Later, there are different documents coming from the US Congress and suggesting a very different approach. So, Mr. Zhong, when you were, discussing with your colleagues in different parts of the world about the Taiwan question, how would you explain about what actually these documents trying to indicate?
I think these documents try to indicate that one China principle is the basis for the relationship between the United States and China. And so we all know.
But in the U.S., there's also Taiwan Relations Act.
Yeah, exactly. As for United States, they don't call it one China principle. They just call it one China policy. One China policy and one China principle, they have some common ground. That is, both sides recognize that there is only one China in the world, and both sides across the strait, Chinese mainland and Taiwan, belong to one China. But for the United States, this is just a kind of a policy. And what is more, in 1979, they implemented a law named the so-called Taiwan Relations Act. In this, United States tried to maintain unofficial relationship with the Taiwan people. And here we should pay attention to 2 words and phrases. One is unofficial. But unfortunately, in the next decade, several decades, the United States tried to maintain an official relationship with the Taiwan Authority. I think the United States is breaking its own law. And another point is that the United States people should only maintain commercial or cultural or people-to-people exchanges with the Taiwan people. But now they are trying to keep a political relationship with the United States. And for some even politicians in the United States, they even try to resume the so-called diplomatic relationship with the United States. And I think that will be a huge mistake for the China and the U.S.
Are you worried about the so-called domino effect with some of the U.S. Politicians trying to show their political charm, of course, their own version, by going to visit Taiwan? Do you see that as a domino effect?
Yes,
Are you worried?
I'm really worried about that domino effect. For example, after Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, several other politicians from the United States also made their visit to Taiwan. And what is more, some politicians from Europe, from Japan, and from other countries were visited Taiwan one by one. I think this kind of domino effect has already happened. And what is much worried me more is that the United States House and the Senate is trying to implement another very irritative act named Taiwan Policy Act. And in this act, they try to upgrade the U.S. and Taiwan relationship to the normal relation. That is, makes the normalize the relationship between Taiwan and the United States. And in this act, they try to define Taiwan as a great partner, as a non-major NATO ally.
Yeah.
So from this, you could find that Taiwan is not on Taiwan.
At this moment, the document you just mentioned is not coming into a reality yet.
Yes, they are just try to push forward that act, but not into reality as for now, at least.
So, Mr. Zhong, what will solve the problem? Will the intense situation across the Taiwan Strait solve the problem? Will a incremental plan from all sides be able to reach some kinds of consensus? Will there be a framework and time frame for this? Do you see there's any possibility?
I believe that there is a kind of possibility. It depends on time. As United States, actually, it is just playing Taiwan card. It depends on the cost and income. If the cost is very high for United States, I think finally United States will abandon Taiwan, and that will pave a good way for the peaceful reunification between the two sides.
What do you mean by quote-unquote abandon Taiwan?
Abandoning Taiwan means if we look back to the history, we could find that in the beginning of 1950, United States planned to abandon Taiwan. Unfortunately, because of the Korean War, the United States tried to play Taiwan cards again. And actually, at the beginning of that year, the United States began to abandon Taiwan. So Taiwan authority, you could decide whatever you could do with the Chinese mainland. The United States will no longer to show our hands or to help you. And another example is in 1979. That means the Chinese mainland resumed our relationship with the United States, and that time the United States severed the so-called diplomatic relationship with Taiwan, and that is also called abandoning Taiwan. And I think that kind of abandoning Taiwan will repeat itself in future.
Why would you say that?
Because I think the comprehensive national power between the Chinese mainland and the United States is, one is upgrading, I think, for Chinese mainland, and another is comparatively degrading for United States. So in this case, the Taiwan card will become, the cost of Taiwan card is becoming much higher and higher and higher. And finally, United States, just because of this huge cost, it will abandon Taiwan.
Very interesting, the point. There's another question that we really need to ask. So what's going to happen in the next few months? If you look at the political calendar, midterm election in the US, and
Yes.
there's also a local election in Taiwan for the rest of the year. So how do you see these elections taking place at local level in Taiwan and national level in the US likely to intertwine, and what's likely to be the impact of them?
I'm really worried about the coming several months, especially about 100 days. I think, just as you said, both Taiwan and the United States will see their midterm election, and in this scenario, some politicians from United States and Taiwan will try to irritate Chinese mainland. For example, the United States will send more warships to the Taiwan Strait, and the Taiwan side, especially the DPP, Democratic and Progressive Party, will to promote their separatist activities. As for Chinese mainland, I think we should keep our two hands. One hand is we should keep our patience. We should see that time is on our side. We believe that Taiwan question will be solved in future. And at the same time, we'll be keeping alarm for the upgrading situation of the Taiwan Strait. And we have already prepared many tools. If either United States or Taiwan try to play fire, I think we would send a very strong signal to them.
Well, of course, you know, this is the Mid-Autumn Festival.
Yes.
It's a festival that is celebrated all over the world by the Chinese. We do not wish to have any war nor military conflict. But of course, maintaining peace is a very important mission. It takes all the wisdoms and courage as well. How do you see, on the one hand, to maintain peace, on the other hand, use tools when they are available?
I think, and first, we should try our best, do our utmost to keep peace, to keep stability across the Taiwan Strait, because peace is in the interest of the compatriots on both sides. And at the same time, we never renounce the use of force, because only in this way we could we safeguard the peace. If we renounce the use of force, maybe the Taiwan separatists, those will do some more irritating activities and will try to disturb the peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. So apparently there are two hands, and actually there are one hand. Only could we use of force could we safeguard the peace and stability.
To make sure we still have the option.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
But peace is the eternal goal.
Yeah, eternal goal. And I believe we will realize a peaceful reunification, because that is a historical trend. Another important reason is that the common willing on both sides. No one wish to see war between the two sides.
I know you are here not only to talk about politics, right?
Yes.
But also to use our show today, but also to use our show today as an opportunity to greet your friends in Taiwan who you would not be able to visit this time because of the latest situation. What would you like to say to them? If I have a chance
to say some words to my compatriots, to my friends in Taiwan, I would say we are one family. And in this special festival, no matter what kind of political situation, no matter where we are or what time is it, we should enjoy this great festival. And in future, I think we will be reunited, and because this is a historical trend.
Hopefully to have the Mid-Autumn Festival together once
Yes.
again. Thank you so much, Zhong Houtao, for being with us.
My pleasure.
Wish you and your beloved ones a wonderful Mid-Autumn Festival.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peace and reunion are what we have been longing for. On the eve of the Mid-Autumn Festival, let us be one in the wish for the world to be at peace and also reunited. That's all we have for From the Moon to the Heart, a Mid-Autumn Festival special. You can tune in to watch the TV program at 22:30 on Friday. The rebroadcast of this hour's special program is also available on CGTN Weibo. On behalf of my team, thank you so much for watching, and may you and your beloved ones a great Mid-Autumn Festival. 中秋快乐，再见 ，See you.
再见 ，See you.
So how